Hello everyone, and welcome to the Unanswered Questions True Crime Podcast.
I have spent hours and hours investigating this.
He basically told her that people have been killed. Journalists, independent investigators, people like that disappeared. It frightened her to the bone.
There's more to the story than meets the eye.
There were rumors of torture and homicide and sexual abuse, all sorts of egregious, horrendous crimes.
He was polygraphed 3 times. Each of those 3 showed evasions.
His resumes were a skeleton of truth.
He was mad at the world, and particularly mad at the government.
The study that he commissioned described a fictional terrorist attack.
If people have died over this, it means you're getting close to the truth.
You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to say, what the fuck?
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of my new podcast, Unanswered Questions, where every week we'll endeavour to discuss a mysterious unsolved case that has many lingering unanswered questions. So I hope you enjoy, and as always, leave me some feedback on what you think about the show, and rate it as well. Now on to the show. This week we'll be talking about the Storyville Slayer. The Storyville Slayer is the nickname given to an American serial killer who murdered at least 24 prostitutes and drug addicts, most of whom were women in New Orleans, Louisiana. Through the course of the investigation, 2 separate suspects were considered, one of whom was convicted of 1 murder, leading investigators to believe that multiple killers are responsible. Now we get into the killer's modus operandi. The perpetrator or perpetrators mainly targeted girls and women of African American descent aged between 17 and 42 as victims. Most of them were strangled to death, while a number of others were beaten and drowned in canals and rivers, and then dumped in swamps, rivers or canals near highways bordering the western shores of Lake Pontchartrain. Due to the isolated locations of the dumping sites, the victims' bodies were left in water spanning from several weeks to several years, resulting in extreme decomposition and destruction of incriminating evidence. Some of the victims have never been identified. Now we get into the timeline of these killings. According to investigators, the crimes began in the summer of 1991 after a young black woman informed police about an attempt on her life. According to her testimony, she had boarded the car of an unknown man in Algiers sometime in July, and after having a conversation with him, the man strangled her into unconsciousness and dropped her off on the streets. Her name has never publicly been disclosed, and she is referred to as Brenda in case files. During her testimony, Brenda gave a description for her attacker from which an identikit was created. She described him as muscular, well-dressed, middle-aged black man who drove a dark-coloured vehicle, possibly a Buick Regal or Chevrolet Monte Carlo. On August 4th of 1991, the body of 17-year-old Danielle Britton was found in a ditch not far from where Brenda had been abducted. Her body had been covered with garbage, and an autopsy determined that she had been beaten and strangled. Britton had dropped out of school shortly before her death and was last seen in a New Orleans bar next to an unknown man. It is unclear whether she was employed, but nothing indicated that she was engaged in prostitution or used drugs. On September 3rd, the body of 21-year-old Tyra Tassin was found. A mother of 3, she had a criminal record for drug possession. 18 days later, the body of 28-year-old Charlene Price was found in a New Orleans park just 1 mile from where Britton was found. An autopsy determined that she had been strangled and beaten. Price was a drug addict but had no history of prostitution. On November 21, the body of 37-year-old Regina Oko was discovered. A mother of 3, she had multiple arrests for prostitution during her lifetime. An autopsy deduced that she had been strangled and prior to her death had taken a large dose of cocaine, which could have caused an overdose. On December 14th, skeletal remains were found in a ditch near a highway. The autopsy established remains belonged to a young black girl who at the time was in her early 20s and approximately 1.57 meters tall. Despite having a defining characteristic, namely strongly protruding front teeth, she was not identified. The victim is referred to as Jane Doe No. 1 and was presumably strangled and found not far from Britton's body. On January 4th of 1992, the body of 29-year-old Lydia Madison, who had several arrests on charges of prostitution and drug possession, was found in a ditch under a highway overpass. The cause of her death was also declared as strangulation. On June 2nd, 25-year-old George Williams' body was found in the La Branche Westlands area of St. Charles Parish. An autopsy determined that she had been strangled. Investigators determined that she was a transsexual, had feminine features, and worked as an exotic dancer at a New Orleans nightclub. Like the previous victims, Williams was a drug addict and had been arrested for robbery and drug possession. On July 25th, the body of 33-year-old Noah Filson was found in the waters of a canal near I-55. Like Williams, Filson was transsexual and worked at a nightclub under the name Brenda Bewitch. On September 21st, the remains of 29-year-old Regata Martin, sorry if I get that name wrong, were discovered in the waters of another canal near a highway. She was an impoverished mother of 3 who engaged in prostitution and had several previous arrests. On February 20th, 1993, the skeletal remains of a 30-year-old Cheryl Lewis were discovered in the waters of a channel near Hanville. Like the previous victims, Lewis was an impoverished mother of 4, a known prostitute with several arrests, and had been strangled to death. However, while investigating her death, authorities learned that she had been seen alive on February 2nd, getting into a car of an unidentified white male. On the next day, the body of 42-year-old Dolores Mack was found in the waters of a canal near a highway not far from the Lewis crime scene. She too had been strangled, but she had no known history with either drugs or prostitution. During this period, according to investigators, the killers committed several other murders, but due to various circumstances, the bodies of the victims were found only in early 1994. On February 5th of 1994, skeletal remains were found in St. John the Baptist Parish, later determined to be a young woman between the ages of 25 and 35. She had been strangled. She remains unidentified and is referred to as Jane Doe number 2. 5 days later, more skeletal remains were found, this time to a girl whose age is estimated to be around between 15 to 17. Due to extreme decomposition, she too remains unidentified and is named Jane Doe number 3. On February 13th, 25-year-old Stephanie Murray's body was found in a small pond near the Bonnet Carry Spillway. 2 days later, the skeletal remains of another young girl were found, whose identity was never ascertained. On April 2nd, 2 sets of skeletal remains were found in the canals, later determined to be of a young woman and a young man. Again, due to extreme decomposition, neither could be identified and are referred to as Jane Doe number 5 and John Doe number 1. On July 3rd, the body of 32-year-old Michelle Foster, who had gone missing in New Orleans just days prior, was found. On October 19th, the skeletal remains of a woman were found in a wooded area near a highway within the limits of Bridge City. She was later identified as 28-year-old Stephanie Brown, who had no prior criminal record. On January 22nd of 1995, the body of 29-year-old impoverished mother of 3 Wanda Ford was found in a swamp near the I-55. During her lifetime, she had been arrested multiple times for theft and was a known drug addict. On the following day, the body of 39-year-old Sandra Warner was found in St. John the Baptist Parish. On January 25th, the remains of 25-year-old Henry Calvin, who had gone missing months earlier from New Orleans, was found. On March 24th, police found more skeletal remains under an overpass in, I'm going to butcher this name, Tangapaioa Parish. While the remains were determined to be female, authorities were unable to identify the victim, and she is listed as Jane Doe number 6. Her estimated age was between 25 to 35. On April 30th, the bodies of 2 women were found in a swampy area near the I-55. The victims were later identified as Karen Ivester and Sharon Robinson, 30 and 28 respectively. Autopsies determined that Ivester had been strangled while Robinson had been beaten and strangled, but the presence of water in her lungs indicated that the cause of death had been drowning. On May 6th, the body of 39-year-old Sandra Williams, who had been strangled, was found on a boulevard in New Orleans. Now, according to the official investigation, the murders ceased following her death. However, 11 months after the final body was found, police discovered additional skeletal remains on April 8th of 1996. She was later identified as 39-year-old Lola Porter, who'd gone missing from New Orleans in 1992. Policemen later interviewed her friends and acquaintances, who stated that she had been cohabitating with a white male who vanished shortly after Porter went missing. Now we get into the police investigation. In May of 1995, a task force was established by the New Orleans Police Department in conjunction with surrounding parishes and the FBI in order to solve the killings. During a press conference in August, Chief Richard Pennington announced to the media that the current prime suspect was 33-year-old Victor Gant, a police officer working in New Orleans at the time. During the investigations, it was established that Gant had an intimate relationship with one of the victims, that being Sharon Robinson. As a young man, he was a boxer and regularly went to the gym and did weightlifting, and closely matched the 1991 suspect sketch based on Brenda's testimony. FBI agent Neil Gallagher later clarified that Gant was a suspect only in Robinson and LaVista's murders, and at present they had no evidence tying him to any of the other killings. In response, Gant's attorney John Reed said that his client was innocent and that the evidence was purely circumstantial. Now we get into who Victor Gant was. A native of New Orleans, Gant spent his childhood and youth in Algiers, where a number of the victims lived and were abducted from. He became a police officer in February of 1980, and while on patrol, Gant would spend a lot of time in red light districts, where in later years he acquired many acquaintances among pimps, prostitutes, and street informants. In the early 1990s, Gant gained a reputation for being corrupt after a number of informants reported that he, along with a few others, were running racketeering operations against pimps and other criminals. It was revealed that during this time he met Sharon Robinson, who would soon become his roommate. On December 9th of 1994, Robinson went to the police to report him for beating her, and according to her statement, Gant punched her in the face and broke her nose. Gant, of course, denied the accusation, stating that he had pushed her during an argument, with Robinson hitting her nose on a chair. Now, this was of course contradicted by her children, who said that they had witnessed him beating their mother. This was also backed up by the emergency room doctor who treated her, that testified that the woman's injuries were the result of a beating. In early 1995, a disciplinary panel and hearing to determine Gant's punishment began. During the hearing, members of the disciplinary committee reviewed the testimony of the prosecution's witnesses. The key witness was supposed to be Robinson, but she was found dead on the 1st of May of 1995. Now, according to the investigators, Gant had killed both her and her friend Karen LaVista in order to get rid of them. According to friends and acquaintances of the victims, Gant had held a personal grudge against LaVista and had spoken negatively about her on multiple occasions. In order to determine whether he was guilty or not, Gant was ordered to submit DNA for testing to see whether they could match it to the perpetrator's saliva, which was found on a piece of chewing tobacco found near LaVista's body. The results were inconclusive, and no charges were ever filed against Gant, who was dismissed from the police force in August of 1996. Now we come to the second suspect in the case, Russell Elwood. In addition to Gant, another resident of New Orleans, Russell Elwood, soon came under police suspicion. A native of Massillon, Ohio, Elwood moved to New Orleans in 1968 after graduating high school. For the next 30 years, Elwood lived in squalor because of his drug addiction, had no permanent residence, never married, and changed professions often, mostly sticking to photography and cab driving. Owing to his addiction, Elwood was arrested several times from 1968 up to 1998. When not imprisoned, he spent most of his time among fellow vagrants, with acquaintances describing him as an outsider who constantly sought to make get-rich-quick schemes, consistently failed in his endeavours. Elwood first came under police scrutiny in 1994 after he was allegedly found masturbating in his car by police, which had been parked by the road near where Cheryl Lewis and Dolores Mack's bodies were found. A partially undressed Elwood was forced out of his car and told to show his driver's license. His explanation for stopping was to apparently change the oil and repair the brake pads of his car, and willingly allowed his vehicle to be searched. Officers found none of the items required for the fixes, not even a flashlight, which would be necessary to perform such repairs in an unlit area at night. Elwood was questioned regarding the murders and later booked as a suspect. After the task force was formed, Colonel Walter T. Gorman of the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office and other task force members traveled to Sebring, Florida on July 23rd of 1997 so they could question Elwood, who was living with his elderly father. Once located, Elwood was informed of his rights and within 3 days gave several statements recorded on tape. During the interrogations, he admitted to frequenting black prostitutes throughout his life, claiming that he knew more than 100 girls, in addition to frequently taking drugs such as heroin, crack cocaine, and LSD over the years. The investigators became increasingly suspicious when Elwood started speaking about having a dream in which he was being questioned about a series of murders, and later admitting to frequenting the locations where the bodies were found, but continued to reaffirm his innocence. On August 4th of 1997, just days after the interrogations were completed, Elwood was arrested for buying cocaine from an undercover police officer at his home in Sebring. As a result, he was convicted and sentenced to spend 85 days in the county jail. Now, according to his cellmates, Elwood implicated himself in the prostitute killings back in New Orleans and its various suburbs. One of them, Stan Hill, contacted the county prosecutor's office and claimed that Elwood had described to him in detail how he had driven the woman to outlying areas of the city, offering them large quantities of drugs that caused overdoses, then strangled and dumped their bodies. A number of other inmates witnessed a fight between Elwood and another inmate, during which he allegedly said, and I quote, "Yeah, I killed that N-word bitch. I'll kill you too." End quote. Another inmate, Stephen Michael Busser, also told police that Elwood had boasted of being wanted for more than 60 murders within the state of Louisiana, and had even described to him in detail one of them. Now we come to the very infamous and controversial Howard Stern phone call, which I will play. On August 13th of 1997, the Howard Stern Show received a call from a man who identified himself as Clay. During the conversation with host Howard Stern, which was broadcast live, Clay described details for more than 12 murders and gave some details about his background, indicating that he was a white resident of New Orleans. The interview with the potential serial killer caused massive media publicity, thanks to which FBI agents allegedly went to the studio and seized audio recordings of the call to establish the caller's location and possible identity. In the following years, the credibility of this incident was questioned, as the program regularly received numerous calls from people who claimed to have done terrible things, with some alleging that Stern himself faked the call to boost his ratings. Now, it's interesting to note that Elwood was actually arrested on August 4th of 1997 for purchasing cocaine from an undercover officer. He was sentenced to 85 days in jail, as I previously mentioned, and he was still incarcerated on August 11th of 1997, so he may have been incarcerated at the time of the phone call and thus was not the person Clay who called.
All right, I got a guy on the phone who claims he's been killing prostitutes and he's wondering why he's doing it.
Oh, God.
So maybe he thinks I have an answer. Is this Ed? Ed?
No, this isn't Ed.
Oh.
You haven't killed any prostitutes?
No, I never said my name was Ed.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's okay.
What name do you use?
You can call me Clay.
Clay?
Clay?
Yes, Clay. Okay, Clay. So what happened? How many prostitutes have you killed?
12.
And you're wondering why you do it?
I have a pretty good idea.
Why? Did your mom beat you? Did your mom spank you?
Was your mom a prostitute?
No. Actually, nothing like that.
What is it then?
I think I just do it for the sense of the power.
All right. Do you have sex with them first?
Yes, and...
And then what, you strangle them?
Once.
How else did you kill them?
Well, a few times, actually most times with a hammer.
And where do you do this primarily?
I've done it twice in a parking garage, and then the rest of the times on the side of the road.
And you're from the New Orleans area?
Yes.
And how, I mean, what do you beat them to death with a hammer?
Man.
It usually only takes once, and
Dude, you got to have a lot of anger in you.
Yes.
Man.
Well, why do you need to feel so powerful?
He's got some issue with women, but like some shrink's got to look into it. It's not even worth. I mean, you might as well just kill yourself if you've killed 15 people. And that means you're heartless. Did you used to kill small animals?
No, I've killed a rat.
Yeah. See, a lot of guys start out killing kittens for some reason.
Yeah, they kill something before they start with humans.
If my kid like killed a kitten or something cute, I'd probably just, figure, well, this is it. They're going to be serial killers.
Kill them.
Dude, you're a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And you get away with it, I guess, because they're hookers, and so far nobody's... What?
Is this Howard?
Yeah. Hello? Hello?
I didn't know this was Howard.
Yeah, it's Howard.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've never killed a kitten.
Really?
Never killed any small animal except a rat?
Yeah, rat's okay.
Well...
Rats I don't mind you killing.
But how'd you kill him?
The rat?
Yeah.
Stepped on his head, I bet.
We had a big flood a couple of years ago, and it's not actually a rat, it's called a nutria rat. And I clubbed it to death. It got in the kitchen at my work.
So how old were you when you killed your first woman?
16.
And you must be a powerful kind of guy, big guy.
I wasn't then.
Right. And when you killed your first one, did you go in there knowing you were going to kill her, or it just sort of happened?
I knew I really had it planned out. You know, I wanted to do the whole sending clues.
Right.
Oh yeah, are you in?
To baffle people, but it turned out no one noticed for a long time.
Right. Like you killed her on the side of the road?
That was the parking garage.
Okay. And then what'd you do with the body? You dumped that somewhere?
Yeah, actually, I think she's probably one of the ones that they found.
Yeah.
But let me ask you something. You were sending clues that you were going to do this?
No, I was.
He was going to
doing that.
He was going to leave like a note for the newspapers, and
but you decided not to.
He didn't want to be famous or draw attention to himself. But the problem is...
that's what I wanted to do, but...
Oh, but you did, but no one noticed the clues.
I never sent the clues. I never left anything. You know, I wanted to have my own little signature.
Right.
I wanted to thumb paint with their thumbs.
Oh, really?
What do you want to do?
Thumb paint with their thumbs.
Thumb paint what, though?
I don't know.
Oh, anything. It was in a comic book a couple of years ago. Just seemed like a good idea.
Like you take the girl you killed, you dip her thumbs in paint, and then you do like a thumb painting?
Yes.
On a piece of paper?
Yeah.
Now, after you kill somebody, do you play with the body?
Actually, the closest I've ever done to that is I always make sure I pay them and I make sure they keep their money.
Oh, really?
When they're still alive, but with one of them I did put the money in a compromising place.
I see.
But this one, you know, it had a penis.
Oh, really?
It was a guy?
Yeah, I didn't know at first.
So do you ever get, do you think the reason you're so angry is because you were abused or something?
No, I wasn't abused, Howard.
Where's your family?
You got a wife?
I mean, you got a mom, a dad, a wife, children. You got any of that?
I've got a couple of kids, but
no wife.
Not married to the mother.
You're a white guy?
Yeah, Howard, that's pretty funny because the only suspect they had when they started finding the bodies was a black police officer.
Oh.
Turns out one of them was associated with them.
Oh, really?
Are you on drugs?
I've done acid a few times.
So,
but nothing heavy.
So after you killed the first 60-year-old, like you finished.
No, I was 16.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
She was.
All right. So you finished with your sexual gratification, and then you.
Not always, no.
Not always. You don't even want to get laid sometimes.
No,
You just want to kill.
I'm just bored.
Right.
But does the killing sexually satisfy you in some way?
I can't believe Ed McMahon's not laughing.
I've eaten off thinking about it later.
Yeah.
What do you say?
That's about it.
He's pleasured himself thinking about it later.
Oh, he has. Okay. Now, how far apart are these murders? Like, do you murder and then, like, you feel satisfied for a while?
I don't even understand why I do it, Howard. I don't know if I ever get any satisfaction.
But how often?
The gather anywhere was the same night.
Really?
You killed two people in the same night?
Yeah, but I went to Mississippi for the second one.
So there's no pattern to how many weeks or days between murders?
No.
Are these mostly white chicks or black chicks?
A fair number of them have been black. The transvestite was black.
You think there's some racial motivation here?
No, Howard. They were just, let's just say a Jimmy Swaggart town.
Jimmy Swaggart town.
Don't know what that means.
Me neither, but...
That's pretty much the area around here where the prostitutes all hang out.
I see.
And it's just whoever comes up to you. You don't pick a certain type?
I don't even approach them. I wait for them to approach me, Robin.
So that's like them asking for it.
Do you ever, like, look into their eyes and go, you know, gee, these people were just children at one point, and maybe they just had a tough life?
I've let a couple go.
You have? Like, what happened? You're in the middle of killing them, and then they what do they say? Why would you let one go and kill the other?
There was this one.
Go ahead.
I think she was probably really new to it.
Yeah.
There was just something about her. Maybe she reminded me of my ex-fiance, but...
Right. You somehow relate...
More of an innocent quality. I just
You somehow felt bad for her.
Yeah.
And you have a fiancé, so you're planning to get married?
No.
He had one.
Oh, he had one.
No. If I wouldn't be a suspect, believe me, she'd...
But let me ask you, why'd you did you start to kill her and then, like you said, forget it? Or you just never even...
Not even.
You just had sex. You just had sex with her and then you let her go.
I didn't even have sex with her, Howard.
Well, that's weird. Now that's weird.
I mean, you just really felt sorry for this.
I don't know what she was doing what she was doing, but...
Are you a big fat mess?
But she got off lucky.
Are you a big fat mess, or are you like a fairly good-looking guy?
I'm not a big fat mess. I wouldn't call myself good-looking. I don't know what I'd call myself, Howard.
Right.
Do you have a decent job and all that stuff?
Sounds like a bright guy.
Not decent like you have.
Yeah, well, we got ridiculous jobs.
You can't get these.
I don't even know that I'd call this a job. You know what I mean? This is not a normal
It's a
job.
made-up job.
Yeah, this is a job that's totally useless. You know what I mean? Like, nobody really needs it.
It's a scam.
To me, a job is like something like, a UPS driver is a job. All right.
Not now.
Thank you, Ed.
Maybe this is a UPS driver.
Ed laughs, but he has no job either. All right, so... All right, this is always weird.
But you do work every day and stuff like that.
This is always weird, but I'm bringing, at least we can sort of get into the mind of a guy who serial kills. I think he's 100% on the level. So you killed your first woman.
When was the last time you killed?
It's been a few months.
Right.
Actually, it's been going on a year.
You're like the Boston Strangler, man. Maybe I should option your story. So, what do you think you're going to do? Do you think you're going to kill yourself? Do you think that
Are you going to kill again?
Can you stop this?
If I killed myself, I'd miss the next Batman movie.
Right. You don't want to do that.
No.
As a fan.
Actually, I'd actually kill myself to miss
why
that.
would you want to stay for that?
No, but in all seriousness, I mean, do you think that you can control this? Do you think you can stop?
I think I have been.
Oh, you have been for the last couple of months?
A year he hasn't killed.
Oh, a year?
Yeah.
Almost.
So why do you think you stopped killing all of a sudden?
I really don't know, Howard. Part of it had to do with my car broke down.
Oh, no transportation.
Seriously? That's the reason?
Well, that was the reason for a month, but after that, I guess it was all self-control.
Wow. But
so you don't want to do this anymore?
No, he wants to do it, but he's controlling himself. Like, you want to kill women, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And what do you like? Do you enjoy seeing them struggle as you kill them?
Actually, none of them really struggle.
Do you hit them from behind, or do they see it coming?
I can't get inside their minds, but let's just say I hit them.
But, I mean, are you facing them?
Yeah.
Oh, so you can see their face and everything when you do it.
Yeah. The worst I've ever gotten was one tried to grab my neck. I've never gotten any of the claw marks or anything that are dead giveaways.
Right, you must be very powerful.
I wouldn't call myself powerful, maybe intimidating.
Why did you choose this method?
I didn't, Robin. Like I told you, I really wanted to cut things up, mail things, send clues.
No, she means why did you use a hammer? Do you think you...
Because it was in a book I read.
Oh, everything's come from
cartoons
somebody else.
Yeah. When's the last time you got laid?
Last week, Howard.
Oh, yeah, so you didn't kill that girl?
No.
Because she wasn't a hooker?
No.
Right.
It's only hookers, though.
A lot of serial killers are only into hookers because they know, A,
easy.
probably won't get caught, and B, they have some kind of anger toward hookers. Like, did you think your mom was a hooker or something?
No, Howard.
Your parents married and stay together and the whole thing?
Yeah.
Church-going people?
That'll do it.
Well, one of them, but...
Yeah. Religious fanatics give birth to the most serial killers because they're so repressed.
Yeah.
So there's no way I'm going to talk you into giving yourself up or anything, right?
No.
I shouldn't even waste my time. I know I'm going to get calls after this and people are going to go, Howard, how come you didn't catch him?
Has anybody ever been close to catching you?
No. Actually, someone... Once when it was in the newspaper, someone joked to me, I know it was you, but, well, they were joking.
Right.
Yeah.
You think you might be gay?
I hope not.
Right, maybe you're a repressed homosexual. Were you ever molested?
No.
Do you have a lot of tattoos?
I don't have any tattoos. I wouldn't do that to myself.
Right.
And do you get high before you do this?
I've gotten pretty drunk before.
Yeah.
Little amyl.
Little amyl.
Relax that sphincter. Well, I got to say, I wish you would die, but, you know, what can I tell you? I maybe this is sort of good that you're talking about it with me, and maybe it'll keep you under. Like maybe I can't get you to turn yourself in.
Like a valve, and he'll be able to go another year. Or something.
Yeah, but maybe somehow you won't do it anymore.
What about your kids? You want them living in a world with people like you?
Hasn't really analyzed it.
Anyway, I mean.
Yeah.
It's kind of lonely, though. You can't tell anybody about this.
I'm the only guy you could. Am I the only guy you ever told about this?
Yeah.
Wow. I guess that's sort of an honor.
I've told a couple of women, Howard, but
they're dead.
Yeah. Do you tell them first and then you kill them?
Yeah.
What do you say to them? Let me.
Fun.
All right. Let's see.
Every now and then you can play the running game if you're out in the middle of nowhere, and we got a lot in the middle of nowhere down here.
Right. So, in other words, let's say you're with a woman, right? A hooker.
Yeah, Howard.
And you say to her, okay, honey, you just had sex and everything. What do you say to her to torment her? How do you break the news to her that she's going to die?
It really depends on my mood.
Just give us an example.
Well, if I wanted to, I could just say Baba Booey, but that would be pretty,
No, come on, be serious. What do you say to him?
I can say you're going to die.
And then what do they do?
I like to articulate a little more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I ask them if they think it's dangerous, doing what they're doing, if they're worried about things, and they'll laugh it off, and that just pisses me off.
Right. And then you go ahead and you kill them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go.
Well, now we've shed no light on this. We don't know how a serial killer is made, and we don't know how to catch him.
Yeah, well, you know what? All the experts don't know either, so. Well, here's a guy, just another story. He's out there.
It's just, it substantiates my theory. Did you get jealous of Cunanan? Is that why you're talking to us now?
No, actually, I was thinking about writing a musical about Andrew Cunanan, but...
Guy's a comedian, too.
Huh?
Guy's a...
comedian.
Hey, some psychologist is on the line. You want to talk to him?
Sure.
I mean, since you're looking for answers.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Robert?
How you doing, Howard?
Hey, man. Go ahead.
Just wondering, how long did this guy wet his bed when he was a young boy?
Are you serious, or are you just trying to make a joke?
No, I'm totally serious.
Did you wet your bed when you were a young boy?
No.
Didn't do that at all.
No.
How about starting fires?
Huh?
How about starting fires?
Sure.
Yep.
You did start fires?
Yeah.
How old were you when you...
for people that get into serial killing to start fires, wet their bed when they're young. Along with the mutilation of little animals, but he said he didn't do that, so...
Right.
That's kind of something that was missing.
But fires was in your history, right?
You could say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of... it starts off as external ways of showing off their anger, and then they move on and go on to bigger and better things, I guess.
Wonder why this guy kills. Do you have any guess?
I don't know. I think you're right on with something with his family, childhood.
Yeah, what's he so angry about?
Right.
Unfortunately, he's real angry, and he's out there hurting a lot of innocent women.
Yeah, what do I do with a guy like this? Just hang up and forget about it, or is there anything I can...
Depends on, Howard, what are you going to do? Of course, you're not going to, turn him in, but...
Well, I would, but I can't.
A lot of people would want to turn him in, but what can you do? You talk to him, try and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, all right. That's right. Then I'll probably just hang up. Okay.
Thanks a lot,
Howard. Thanks, man. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mr. Serial Killer.
Yeah, I mean...
Want to give us your name?
Yeah, I know I'm not going to get him to turn himself in. I've had calls from people who go, well, why didn't you do something? I go, well, what am I supposed to do? The guy's on the phone.
Crawl through the phone and get him?
Yeah. They were like, well, why don't you trace these calls? And I'm like, well, I don't have that equipment.
Yeah, what are we, the police?
I can't even get a phone system that works for air. Let alone a tracing thing. Oh, Jackie's back there bumming out.
First I wasn't buying it, but now I think I'd buy it.
Nah, I buy it. I bought that guy.
Sort of offhand attitude that you have to be a serial killer.
Nah, I buy it.
When he said Baba Booey, I was hoping he was going to break it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you horse-tooth jackass.
Right.
He snapped right back,
Yeah. No, I think he was the real deal. To tell you the truth. Okay, Tom, you're on the air.
Now, after his release, Elwood returned to Kenton to live with his brother, who offered him a high-paying job. Based on Hill's testimony, the task force tracked him down and re-interviewed him in the presence of Ron Camden, a 27-year veteran of the Cincinnati Police Department's homicide unit. During interrogation, Elwood initially denied making any statements to the inmates, but after an audio tape of Hill's testimony was played, he admitted that he indeed boasted to Hill. Camden later testified that Elwood also confessed to him that he had killed a black girl whose corpse he had dumped in the canal. Now, no recording of this confession was taken, and Elwood later denied ever confessing to such a murder to Camden. Elwood later claimed that a mental illness had caused him to boast, demanding that the interrogation cease and he be allowed to return to New Orleans to see his attorney and be provided with treatment. This request was denied, whereupon Elwood confessed to killing Lewis and Mack, but refused to be audio taped, and soon after began denying that he had confessed. Eventually, Elwood was released again, and in January of 1998, he returned to New Orleans. On January 16th, he was stopped by traffic cops for speeding and was scheduled to appear in court, but failed to appear on time and was subsequently arrested for contempt of court. Elwood was eventually convicted and ordered to spend 120 days behind bars. While incarcerated, authorities charged him with the murders of Lewis and Mack on March 4th of 1998. Now we come to Elwood's trial. The trial began on June 8th of 1999 in Lafayette. During the proceedings, a number of Elwood's former cellmates and prostitutes testified as prosecution witnesses, with the former claiming that he had confessed to the killings, while the latter claimed that he had assaulted them. Diane Gilman, a former prostitute, told the court that she had known Elwood since the early 1990s and had dated him periodically. She testified that in 1992, during a date, Elwood, while under the influence of drugs, assaulted, beat, and strangled her into unconsciousness. Gilman stated that she woke up to find herself in a pool of blood in an unfamiliar wooded area where a passing motorist found her by chance and sheltered her at a hotel he was staying at. She said that she did not report the incident due to being a prostitute with a criminal record. Another girl, Navasa Richmond, sorry if I get that name wrong, a former stripper and prostitute, in turn testified that she had also been beaten and assaulted twice by a drug-crazed Elwood, during which he also attempted to strangle her. Janie Stokes, sorry if I get that name wrong, a former prostitute, told the court that she first met him in either 1992 or 1993 at Schnell's gas station in Marrero, sorry if I get that name wrong, where he was working as a cab driver. Stokes stated Elwood bought her lunch and treated her nicely before driving her to his home, where he suggested that they use cocaine. After doing drugs together, Elwood beat her, but she managed to flee. The witness, like Gillum, did not report the incident because she was a drug addict. Antoinette Rainey, who worked as a drug dealer in New Orleans, also appeared as a witness for the prosecution, testifying that Elwood was a regular customer. She recounted an incident in which Elwood forced her into his car at gunpoint, then drove her to an underpass where he beat, raped, and robbed her, threatening to kill her during the ordeal. Rainey was able to escape, but did not report the attack again due to a criminal lifestyle. 3 witnesses testified that they'd seen the defendant with Cheryl Lewis shortly before her disappearance. According to the testimony of Denise Sanders, who was Lewis's best friend at the time, she had seen her with Elwood 3 days prior, who was out driving his cab. Sanders also admitted to withholding this information because she was a drug dealer. The second witness, Antoinette Holmes, who lived near Lewis, testified to seeing her at the Time Saver restaurant in Bridge City 2 weeks before she was reported missing, standing between 2 parked cars and talking to a cab driver. She then identified Elwood as the driver. Wineware Henry, sorry if I get the name wrong, Lewis's cousin, stated that she last saw her at a hotel in Avondale with a man whom she identified as Elwood. Now, according to her, Lewis had told Henry that she and Elwood were on their way to a suburb of New Orleans where her body was later found. Henry testified that she had not given police this information as she was wanted for petty offences at the time. Now, Elwood himself denied knowing any of the victims or committing any of the murders, although he could not provide an alibi. Cheryl Lewis's mother, in turn, admitted that her daughter was a drug addict and a prostitute, but said that she'd never seen Elwood with her daughter before. His attorneys argued that Elwood was not in New Orleans at the time of the murders, claiming that he had been in Ohio with some relatives. Now, this is where the case takes a particularly interesting turn of events. Elwood was known for keeping extensive amounts of documents that indicated his whereabouts, but the receipts regarding his supposed presence in Ohio for February of 1993 had mysteriously disappeared. Elwood's attorneys then filed a motion for a polygraph test to be performed on Sue Rushing, then head of the task force, which was granted. During the test, Rushing was unable to answer a series of questions regarding the missing receipts, but the result was inconclusive, casting doubt on Elwood's guilt. Ultimately, the murder charge for Dolores Mack was dropped, but on the basis of very circumstantial evidence and unreliable testimony, Elwood was found guilty of killing Cheryl Lewis and was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole on August 17th of 1999. A deputy who worked in the department, interestingly enough, later attempted to sue them for allegedly firing him for revealing that Rushing had destroyed crucial evidence, but his appeal was rejected due to lack of evidence, and his allegation was never proved. Now we get into the aftermath of this case. As of November 2021, all of the murders aside from that of Cheryl Lewis remain unsolved. Elwood remains a suspect in several of the killings, but no charges have ever been filed against him. Gant left New Orleans after his discharge from law enforcement and moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where he presumably still lives today. In a 2016 interview with the Huffington Post, Major C.J. Dester of the St. John's the Baptist Parish Sheriff's Office confirmed that Gant is still on the suspect list. To this day, Elwood's guilt remains controversial and disputed. The other murders and victims remain unsolved and unidentified. With that, this case remains open, but with many unanswered questions that still remain unanswered. Please rate the show and let me know what you guys think about this and the many other cases I've covered. You can follow me on all major social media platforms, YouTube, BitChute, Dailymotion. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram, links are all down below in the description. If you have a case you'd like me to have a look at or cover, don't hesitate to send me a message. I'm your host, and this has been the Unanswered Questions Podcast. Until next time, next on Unanswered Questions. The Baker Street robbery was the burglary of safety deposit boxes at the Baker Street branch of Lloyds Bank in London on the night of the 11th of September 1971.